There are moments in life when even the quietest parts of your soul whisper that something is missing, a subtle ache beneath the surface, a sensation that you are surviving more than living, as if you have been walking alongside your destiny instead of inside it. Perhaps you have felt that disconnect, a longing to move forward, yet an invisible weight holding your ankles to the past. Maybe you have tried to manifest change only to watch life repeat itself, familiar patterns looping like an unfinished song. There is no shame in this recognition. Every awakened journey begins with an honest glance at where we stand, and sometimes that place feels heavy, uncertain, or painfully silent. In a world that rushes without breathing, you are not alone if you feel lost between who you have been and who you are becoming. Many carry wounds that never received a witness, dreams that were once bright but slowly dimmed under responsibilities, heartbreaks, illness, fears of aging without fulfillment, or a quiet suspicion that the universe stopped listening. Yet nothing is farther from the truth. The universe has never abandoned you. It has been waiting for you to turn toward it again with an open heart, steady breath, and willingness to feel instead of flee. Today, we step into a different rhythm, a path where alignment is not about forcing outcomes, but remembering how to walk with life instead of against it, where synchronicities are not miracles reserved for the chosen, but conversations available to the present, where purpose is not a destination, but a way of moving, and where courage is not loud or dramatic, but the soft decision to rise one more morning, breathe one steady breath, and dare to say, I am ready to return to myself and to the universe that never stopped reaching for me. Before we begin, take one slow inhale and offer yourself a simple truth. You are not late, you are not behind, you are returning. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when the world appears still, not in the peaceful sense, but in that unsettling quiet where nothing seems to move forward. You look around and notice that doors that once opened now remain closed. Your intuition feels faint, and your prayers seem to dissolve into the air without echo. You question if something within you has dimmed or if the universe has turned away. Yet this silence is not punishment. It is the sacred pause before a new alignment. Just as winter holds the seed in stillness before spring arrives, there are seasons in your life where outer motion retreats so inner wisdom may awaken. Many resist this phase, fearing stagnation. But walking with the universe begins when you stop measuring progress only by the noise of activity and begin to recognize the subtle language of recalibration that unfolds in quiet. During times of internal winter, your spirit whispers more than it shouts. You may feel fragile, unsure of your place, or disconnected from your purpose. You might miss the clarity you once had, or the enthusiasm that carried you through earlier chapters of growth. This vulnerability is not weakness. It is the shedding of old energy that no longer resonates with who you are becoming. It is human to want certainty, yet certainty is rarely what awakens us. Transformation breathes through uncertainty, carving space where old identities crack open so a truer self can emerge. Instead of rushing to fill the void with distractions, productivity, or forced optimism, allow yourself to sit with the pause, to breathe in the unfamiliar, to be honest about what hurts without collapsing into despair. Silence is not the absence of guidance. It is the clearing of noise so that a deeper frequency can find you. Consider how water behaves when left undisturbed. Sediment settles, clarity returns, and the surface begins to reflect the sky. When life slows and nothing seems to shift, this is what is happening to you. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, many of them stirred by survival, fear, expectation, or habit, begin to settle. Stillness teaches discernment. It reveals inner truths that remain hidden when we chase constant motion. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not rushing ahead, but allowing stillness to do its quiet work. Those who are able to stay present in the pause learn to hear guidance that is unavailable to the hurried mind. They rediscover inner steadiness, and from that steadiness, synchronicities begin to find them again, not as accidents, but as confirmations of a heart becoming aligned. Yet silence also brings shadows. Old memories return, questions arise, doubt surfaces. Rather than resisting these emotions, allow them to surface like waves that rise only to release. You are not failing because you feel lost. You are not weak because doubt touches you. Every soul walking a path of manifestation eventually meets the threshold where old patterns crumble. This collapse is not a collapse of destiny, but of identity. The version of you who could survive has served its purpose. Now a version capable of thriving must be born. And birth rarely arrives without contraction, without discomfort, without a temporary darkness that forces you to reach inward for light rather than outward for certainty. Many believe that alignment is only present when they feel positive or confident, but real alignment includes honesty, humility, and vulnerability. To walk with the universe is to trust that even confusion has meaning, that pauses have purpose, and that clarity grows in the soil of surrender, not control. When doubt arrives, do not wrestle with it. Instead, observe the stories it tells. The mind repeats narratives shaped by past pain, not by future possibility. Listening does not mean believing. Listening means becoming aware of what requires liberation inside you. As you witness your internal dialogue without collapsing into it, you reclaim power. The voice that trembles is not your enemy. It is the part of you asking to be carried into the light rather than abandoned in fear. You may remember moments in your life when guidance felt effortless, when signs appeared like stepping stones, when timing felt almost mystical, when you felt a subtle companionship from life itself. That energy has not disappeared. It is waiting for your inner world to match its frequency again. The universe does not withdraw. We simply shift into states where perception narrows and hope contracts. That contraction is temporary. Healing is not linear. Growth is not always visible. Belief does not always feel strong. What matters is that you remain in the conversation, even if your voice shakes, that you breathe into uncertainty rather than fight it, that you let yourself be human while remembering you are also divine. There is a moment when the quiet begins to feel sacred rather than threatening, when you realize that each heartbeat is a reminder that life has not given up on you, when the smallest sparks of clarity become enough to guide the next step, when gratitude returns not as forced optimism, but as a soft recognition that you are still here, still learning, still becoming. And in this tenderness, synchronicities begin to reappear, subtle at first, then unmistakable. A thought arises at the exact moment someone speaks it. A message arrives at the instant you needed it. A door opens not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the moment it would naturally unfold. This is not magic as escape. This is magic as participation. So if life feels quiet right now, breathe. Hold your heart with gentleness. Recognize that stillness is a bridge, not a prison. You are not falling behind, you are gathering strength. You are not alone, you are being recalibrated. The universe is not silent. It is preparing you to hear with deeper clarity, to move from deeper truth and to rise with a steadier soul than before. The pause is part of the path. The quiet is part of the call. And the moment you soften into it, the world begins to respond again. There are days when you wake up with a quiet heaviness, not from physical exhaustion, but from the weight of unanswered questions you have carried for years. A whisper moves through your mind. What am I here for? Why does life feel like repetition instead of revelation? The world tells you that purpose should feel loud, confident, and obvious. Yet most people do not arrive at purpose through certainty. They arrive through longing, through confusion, through seasons where the soul aches to belong to something meaningful, yet cannot grasp where to place its devotion. The truth rarely spoken is this: purpose is not a single destination waiting in the distance. It is shaped through your presence, your choices, and your willingness to feel deeply where you are before trying to leap where you think you should be. Often when someone says they cannot find purpose, what they truly mean is that they cannot hear themselves beneath the noise of expectation. Expectations from family, from society, from younger versions of themselves who once believed life would unfold in a straight line. But purpose does not bloom under pressure to perform. It unfolds when you soften enough to meet life as it is, not as the mind insists it must be. You do not find purpose by trying to outrun your humanity. You find it by stepping into the subtle, unpolished moments where the mind quiets and the heart begins to speak in its own language. The feeling is not always comfortable. Sometimes it starts as restlessness, sometimes as grief for paths unlived. But beneath every discomfort is a gentle invitation. Return to yourself, not as you think you should be, but as you truly are right now. Think of people you admire, not for fame or success, but for the way they move through the world with calm conviction. Their lives likely did not begin with clarity. They began with paying attention. They noticed what lit them from within and what drained them. They honored what made them feel expansive and what made them smaller. Purpose rarely arrives with a dramatic announcement. More often, It emerges through quiet repetition, through a subtle pull toward certain conversations, certain environments, certain acts of service, certain inner truths. And while the modern world encourages speed, deeper life paths prefer slow awakening. The seed does not rush the earth. It pushes gently, consistently until it breaks through. So does the soul. Some believe purpose means always knowing where you're going. That misconception cripples many hearts. Real purpose often feels like walking through fog with trust in your steps, even though the horizon remains hidden. You will notice something miraculous when you release the belief that purpose must be grand to be real. Moments that once felt ordinary begin to shimmer with meaning. The way you listen, the way you comfort a friend, the curiosity that returns when you allow yourself to learn without competence being a requirement. These are not distractions from purpose. They are threads that weave it. The universe does not reveal the entire tapestry at once. It hands you one thread at a time. Your task is not to demand the whole vision, but to honor each thread with sincerity. Many people wait to feel strong before they begin to build a life that aligns with their soul. But strength grows through engagement, not avoidance. The hesitation you feel is not evidence that you are on the wrong path. It is the tremor that comes when the soul stretches into new territory. Purpose is not confidence without fear. Purpose is devotion that persists despite uncertainty. And it becomes clearer when you stop asking, "What is my purpose forever?" and instead ask, "What feels meaningful to pursue right now in this version of my life with the heart I carry today?" This question opens doors that perfectionism keeps shut. There will be seasons when purpose feels like a steady rhythm, and others when it feels like longing with no form. In these moments, rather than believing you are lost, consider that your inner landscape is rearranging to match who you are becoming. When everything once familiar dissolves, you are not drifting, you are transitioning. The chrysalis does not look like flight, yet it is essential for wings to form. Likewise, your stillness, your confusion, your wandering are not signs of failure. They are preparation, refinement, inner alignment taking shape beneath the visible world. Only when the old identity softens can the soul choose new language to express itself. People often ask how to recognize true purpose when it arrives. The answer is rarely dramatic. It feels like resonance, a subtle warmth in the chest, a steady breath, a quiet sense that something matters enough to stay, to try, to give pieces of your life to it without resentment. Purpose is not always easy, but it feels honest. It may not always be exciting, but it feels alive. And even in moments when it challenges you, it does not hollow you, it expands you. Your body often knows before the mind does. The heart speaks in sensation long before the intellect translates it into words. If you feel unsure now, let that uncertainty be sacred rather than threatening. Do not rush to fill the space where clarity is forming. Do not punish yourself for not knowing yet. Instead, allow yourself to be a student of your own becoming. Notice the moments where you feel nourishment instead of depletion. Follow the conversations that make your breath deepen rather than tighten. Spend time with people who remind you of who you truly are instead of who you learn to pretend to be. Purpose will emerge through presence, through sincerity, and through the courage to remain awake while many prefer to remain on autopilot. One day you will look back and realize that purpose was never lost. It was quietly waiting for you to become the version of yourself capable of receiving it. It was not absence, but preparation. Not confusion, but refinement. You were not drifting, you were clearing space. And when purpose finally feels familiar, it will not sound like a revelation shouted from the sky. It will feel like recognition, as if a voice rises from within and says, "This is where I was meant to stand. This is who I always was beneath the noise." There are mornings when your chest feels heavy before the world even touches you, a subtle tension in your breath, a quiet tremor beneath the surface, as if your nervous system remembers all the times life shifted unexpectedly. It is easy to believe that courage should arrive like lightning, bold and electrifying, but for most people it comes softly. It arrives in the moments when you stand up again after disappointment, when you choose honesty over comfort, when you hold yourself steady in seasons where clarity has not yet returned. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to coexist with fear while refusing to let it write the story of your becoming. Many spiritual seekers believe that once they align with purpose, fear should disappear. Yet even the most awakened souls feel it, Fear does not vanish simply because you have chosen a sincere path. It evolves, asking to be met with awareness rather than resistance. There will be days when doubt visits, when old narratives whisper you are not ready, not talented enough, not late enough in life to reinvent yourself, or not early enough to begin. But the soul does not measure readiness in the same way the mind does. Readiness in the spiritual sense means presence, not perfection. It means breathing through hesitation, rather than interpreting it as a sign to surrender your calling. Courage grows not when life becomes easy, but when you learn to remain open through discomfort. Think of a seed pushing through soil. It does not break the surface because it is confident. It breaks through because something inside refuses to remain small. Courage is the same. You do not need to feel powerful to take a step. You simply need to honor the pull toward the life you sense is waiting, even if your voice trembles and your palms sweat. Every step taken in honest vulnerability expands your inner capacity to walk with the universe, rather than against its rhythm. It is in these fragile transitions that your spiritual strength is forged. Still, courage is often misunderstood. Many imagine it as dramatic leaps and grand gestures, but the most profound courage lives in repetition. It lives in the subtle moments others will never see, choosing to show up to your inner work when no one claps, speaking truth when silence would be easier, softening instead of armoring, resting when the old version of you would have pushed yourself to collapse. Real courage is sustainable. It does not demand perfection or endless force. It asks only that you continue returning to yourself, breath by breath, choice by choice, trusting that each act of sincerity strengthens the bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. There will be moments when fear tries to pull you backward into what feels familiar, not because the past was safe, but because it was known. The unknown can feel like a vast ocean without markers, and the mind often prefers predictable pain over unfamiliar peace. In these moments, courage is the quiet hand you place over your heart as you say, "I am learning to trust life again." You do not have to rush. You do not need to demand certainty before you move. Courage permits you to take one step, then pause, then breathe, then take another. This rhythm, slow and honest, carries more power than any reckless leap into intensity. If you pay attention, you will notice that courage and intuition often rise together. Intuition whispers the direction. Courage grants the willingness to follow. When you hesitate, it is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your inner and outer worlds are trying to synchronize. Give yourself space to adjust. Evolution rarely feels clean or glamorous. Sometimes it looks like fatigue, like restlessness, like sitting in quiet rooms wondering whether your choices matter. Yet beneath that uncertainty, something real is forming. The person you are becoming is learning to breathe through resistance instead of collapsing beneath it. Walk toward your path not as someone who must already be whole, but as someone who is willing to gather themselves piece by piece. Trust that each time you choose truth over fear, even softly you shift timelines. Each time you honor your inner voice rather than external noise, you move closer to alignment. And each time you show kindness to yourself in moments of doubt, you strengthen the foundation on which your future will stand. Courage is not a moment, it is a practice, a steady devotion to showing up for your life even when it shakes you. This quiet devotion becomes the spiritual muscle that eventually allows you to walk not in battle with the universe, but in partnership with it. In that space, fear does not disappear. It transforms into a reminder that what you are stepping into matters deeply. And you are ready not because you feel certain, but because you are willing to rise anyway. There are moments when life feels woven by an unseen hand. A thought surfaces, and suddenly an opportunity reflects it back. A name appears in your mind, and then the person reaches out. A question weighs on your heart, and a passage, a voice, or a chance encounter delivers the answer with uncanny precision. These moments are not coincidences. They are invitations, reminders that reality is not random, that consciousness is participatory, and that the universe responds most clearly when you are aligned with your inner truth. But synchronicities do not serve as shortcuts for avoidance. They arise in the presence of sincerity, humility, and willingness. They do not follow the frantic version of you. They harmonize with the grounded one. To understand synchronicity, you must recognize that life does not respond only to your desires. It responds to your frequency. Wanting change is not the same as being energetically available for it. Many hope for signs from a place of fear or urgency, believing guidance will save them from discomfort or uncertainty. Yet true synchronicity does not rescue you from life's demands, it accompanies your courage to meet them. When you seek signs with desperation, you often do not see them, not because they are absent, but because your energy is contracted and your perception narrowed. The universe whispers, it rarely shouts. Its language is subtle because subtlety requires presence, and presence is the doorway through which intuition breathes. You might wonder why signs feel abundant during certain phases and scarce in others. Synchronicity expands when you are aligned with honesty, when you allow yourself to be who you are without pretense, when you move with authenticity rather than performance, when you choose integrity over comfort. It retreats when you betray your inner knowing, when you suppress truth, when you chase illusions of control or cling to identities that no longer reflect your evolution. The universe does not punish you. It simply mirrors your current state. Alignment opens the field. Self-abandonment creates distortion. When you correct your internal direction, the external environment adjusts. You do not manifest clarity by demanding it. You manifest clarity by becoming the person capable of receiving it. Consider how synchronicities begin to appear when you soften into trust. Not blind trust that ignores discernment, but embodied trust rooted in awareness. You notice the right words at the right moment, the sudden inner nudge to pause or act, the subtle pull toward a place, a person, a conversation. These are not accidents. They are navigation points from a consciousness greater than your logic. Synchronicities guide, but they also test. They ask whether you are willing to follow insight rather than habit, inner truth rather than external validation. Many receive signs but do not move. They recognize guidance but doubt their worth or capability. True synchronicity unfolds fully only when met with action. Not rushed action, but aligned action. The kind that feels like exhaling into the direction life is already nudging. And yet, you must understand that synchronicity is not merely external. The most powerful signs arise internally. A shift in perception, a feeling of sudden clarity, a release of resistance that once felt immovable. When your inner world shifts, the outer world follows. So when signs seem absent, do not assume abandonment. Sometimes the next step is not outside you, it is within you. When answers pause, it is often because integration is happening. The universe is not withholding. It is preparing you to receive without misinterpreting guidance as escape. Clarity that arrives before readiness becomes pressure. Clarity that arrives after inner alignment becomes peace. There is a sacred maturity that grows in those who learn to walk with synchronicity rather than chase it. They no longer demand signs as proof that they are safe. They see signs as confirmation that they are aligned. They do not cling to meaning in every detail, nor do they dismiss miracles as imagination. They learn the balance between surrender and participation. They understand that synchronicities are not guarantees of ease, but guardians of direction. They arrive to encourage, affirm, and orient, not to replace the need for courage, consistency, or emotional growth. When synchronicities appear, they are telling you, you are not imagining your path. Keep listening and keep becoming. So if life feels quiet now, if signs seem sparse, breathe without panic. Alignment is cyclical, like tides, like seasons, like breath. Sometimes the universe steps forward, sometimes it steps back to let you anchor your own strength. When signs pause, they are not gone. They are waiting for you to match the frequency of your next chapter. Return to your inner life with softness rather than urgency. Cleansing your emotional space, honoring your truth, and choosing integrity are acts that summon synchronicity more powerfully than any external striving. When you meet yourself deeply, the universe meets you there. In the end, synchronicities are not magic tricks for the spiritually gifted. They are natural reflections of a consciousness that listens, feels, and participates in its own evolution. They do not appear to those who chase certainty, but to those who commit to presence. And each time you notice them with gratitude rather than grasping, you strengthen the bridge between your life and the greater intelligence moving through all things. Walk with awareness, not desperation. Trust the invisible, even before it becomes visible. The signs will return, not because you searched frantically, but because you remembered how to see. There are journeys that shape your spirit quietly, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through steady awakenings. What we explored here was not a set of instructions or a formula to force life into order. It was a remembrance, a return to the truth that alignment is not achieved through control, but through humility and presence. Synchronicity flows where authenticity lives. Purpose unfolds not through pressure, but through honesty with yourself. And courage breathes not in loud declarations, but in gentle, consistent willingness to rise even when certainty has not yet arrived. If you look closely, you will notice that the universe never asked you to be perfect. It never demanded that you always know the way or move without trembling. It simply asked that you stay awake, that you choose self-reflection over self-abandonment, that you honor the subtle signals of your heart rather than the noise of the world. When you walk like this, life begins to meet you differently. Coincidence becomes conversation, silence becomes instruction, emotion becomes wisdom instead of resistance, and the world that once felt indifferent begins to respond with a tenderness you may have long forgotten. This path is not linear. There will be days when clarity feels near enough to touch, and others when you feel suspended between chapters. Yet nothing is wasted. Every pause, every question, every doubt that teaches you to breathe rather than run is part of your becoming. Trust the rhythm of your unfolding. Trust that what feels delayed is not denial, but preparation. Trust that who you are becoming is already meeting you in the invisible, arranging the next steps long before your mind understands them. You are not walking toward alignment. You are remembering it. You are not finding purpose. You are returning to it. And you are not learning courage. You are uncovering the courage that has always lived beneath every breath you've survived. Walk gently. Walk honestly. Walk with yourself first, and the universe will walk beside you. Before you leave, ask yourself one question, with honesty and stillness. Are you willing to trust the version of yourself that you have not fully met yet, and allow life to rise to meet you as you grow into it? If this message resonated with you, honor your journey by staying connected to teachings that support your expansion. Subscribe to this channel so that each new chapter finds you at the moment you need it. And do not stop here. Your transformation deepens with practice, presence, and continued awakening. Continue watching the next video on your screen. Stay in the energy. Stay in the conversation. Stay in the becoming.